Alright guys, welcome to the stream. Good morning Americans, good evening Australians, Asians, session traders. Yeah, well look, we've got a big monetary policy about to happen with Jerome Powell. I'll be, I guess, streaming that live when the event happens, but you know, we gotta do some preparation beforehand. It's very important that us traders, when we trade, we are doing these things, you know. Yeah, I guess we need to be ready, but give me a moment. I'm just having some technical difficulties on the other end here. It's not, it's making a double up of my other stream. That's weird. It's weird. Bear with me. Content, live. This one here. More actions, delete forever. All done. No need to be in a rush to get in a trade, but this is a short on the 15-minute time frame. We got a short on the 30-minute time frame, 45-minute, 1 hour, 2 hour, 4 hour. It's a short all the way through. I mean, there's not really anything that is not already priced in. I think the market is already expecting that we are about to break down, so to say. Let me just link these to the Discord. Delete that. Yeah, join my Discord, guys. We have a nice community. Scare me, keep crypto. We are a bunch of builders, traders, community alike. We're not a big group, but at the same time, we are always around to help. Okay, so yeah, I am expecting the market to move either direction. I don't really have anything in particular. I am just moving my funds, and I will be more than happy to share that through shortly. Just gonna make sure I'm not doxing myself. Okay, bear with me, it's no rush needed. So let's put some money on KuCoin for, I guess, for Bitcoin, for my Bitcoin trades, USDT, Tether, deposit, solid network. Okay, bear with me. Derivatives, feel that. Transfer, spot, 1010, I think, USDT, all done. Okay, and do I transfer this? Spot, withdraw. Give me a second, set this up. 352173. Okay. Righto. So move that across. Here's the C, withdraw. Let's put this exchange. What fucking. Um, let's transfer it. All right, so that's money transferred into my KuCoin account. Um, let's see. Let me change that into futures. Cross isolated. I don't really know how to use this KuCoin, to be honest with you. So 1 of USDT. Just what the there you go. Uh, Too much information, bro. Like really. Cross margin account. A trading account. Yeah, nice and easy. There you go. Futures. Boom. USDT, baby. Alright, what is this shit? Futures trading, let's see. Max bidding. Fuck off, man. Let's see. Uh-huh. There we go. So high the leverage. Jesus. Just wanna test something. And why is this so bright? Okay. Okay, derivatives. Straight into derivatives. Yo, I really need someone to help me with this, like change this. Shit, dark mode, man. Like, it's like so bright. No countdown, auto scale. UTC 8. Nope. UTC 10. Sorry guys, just setting up my my KuCoin account. Making sure it's background, time zone sessions. Oh man, I can't handle this. This is too bright, man. So happy. No one's trading this should be happy, really. All sad. Sad people. Yeah, I'm gonna put myself here first. 1 second. Dark mode, KuCoin. Click on your KuCoin account. Click on trade page. Okay, and then on the top you see a moon button. Click on it. Where? Let's turn off the lights, man. So gross. Where's the aha? Yeah, much better, guys. So now we got KuCoin up and running. I need to move some money from futures account to main account. $10, $11. No cheating. Confirm. Okay. Got $1,000 available. All right. I'll be taking my first trade after Jerome Powell speaks, based on Ichimoku only. Right? Nice and simple. Where's my Discord? Right here. Let me just make this like public. I got nothing to hide, guys. Really, everyone, hey all. Thank you for joining. This is my 1k to 10k BTC only trade, risking 5% of portfolio at all times while trading this, nothing less than 5%. I will be trading on KuCoin, so please join the journey in taking this 1k to 10k BTC only trade on KCS. Alright, now I do need someone to help me get this Excel sheet. So we gotta hit the reset button here. What's the date today? 20th of May 23. 1,000. Okay, there we go. Bitcoin trades only, 2.5% a weekend. Rename 2%. Thousand 20 05 23. Alright, this is the easy challenge, I guess. 20 05 23. I really do hope you guys utilize this. Like, this is a really powerful arsenal to your inventory. Like, if you have this, like you will be doing so well. You'll be able to track your wins, talk about how you feel, write it down, man. Show yourself some love. You know, develop yourself. I think that's very important. Says in 1 year that I'll make what, 8,900, man. That's chump change. Let me change this. Let me wrap this up. 1% a day. So let me change this to 30-day, 20% a month. That's realistic. Here we go. Rename 30%. Okay. Now save this. Save as desktop. 1k to 10k BTC only. KuCoin. Right, up and running. Let's go. I'm even gonna put like trade notes, like my trading view charts. It's gonna be great, man. Righto. Alt trades. Let's see what we can do. So what's going on with BTC right now? it's really, if the funding is positive there, and what's Bybit doing? Bybit is positive funding. Like everyone's on support. Everyone's like longing. Would be nice to take those out, I guess. You know, we've got positive funding rates and whatnot. And give me some feedback, guys, if you like trading with this dark mode, because I don't mind it. I'll start getting used to it. I'll modify the charts later for aesthetics. I think the play would be long. 1 hour. Uh-oh. That's not good. Really wish Whittleton was here right now. That's a short. That's a big short. Unless we close 8 hour above 27, there's like no chance, man. Like we have to take these like high ASAP. So we got the KuCoin account up. Really excited about this. We got 1k BTC derivatives, so I'm gonna take that out as well. Let me just get rid of this so I don't dox myself. Tsukuyomi, transfer. Derivatives to funding. 641. Yep. Right. Here we go. Give me a moment. My rewards referral program. So this is my Bybit referral. Let's put that on my Bybit code. Okay. Let's go. I'll just run this back up turbo. $15 till the speech. Let's see. So I got Bybit. Don't care about messages. Okay. shit, I forgot to turn on chat. Guys, I do think that it's gonna be a fake pump, but I'm not putting any bullshit position that I'm not really willing to lose anything on, I guess. Where's Whittleton? Oh, what are the chances? What a guess. No, your mic is muted, bro. So do what you gotta do. Okay, I'm just chatting. I'm moving some shit around, and we'll listen to this old man speak. Yeah. Yo.
Charting and charting.
Yeah, bro.
Charting and
You know me, man. Hey, look at this 8 hour close, man. It's not looking good, bro.
hour, 8 hour, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not looking good, man.
Yeah.
That close was so bad. Like now, we need to. The 8 hour needs to close above this level, or that will be confirmation on the 4 hourly to short. So after this old man speaks,
When Powell speaking?
in 1 hour. No,
1 hour.
1 hour.
Just
No,
now.
10 minutes. Where are we gonna stream this? Where do we see? Do you know?
Uh, I see nervous.
Yeah, people are very nervous, man. I'm not nervous. Are you nervous? Look at this. We're no positions, no
I'm
positions.
very.
We're enjoying this. Can you imagine how nervous you would be if you were leveraged right here,
Oh my God.
like right now, and we just pump and we take out all these one, two, three stops. And if that happens, turn on the 8 hour chat. We're actually fine. That would mean if we're shorting here, we were so early we could have shorted here. Me, this one here, I'm taking it easy, man. I just open up that one, and I'm gonna open up, save another desktop, one 1K to 10K, um, alts, BTC, alts, Bybit. So I already have two. I did the courtesy of give me a second.
Oh, my sushi is open though. Only the sushi.
That's fine. Why are you worried about sushi, fam? That's a long game.
Yeah, it's already late.
I'm about to open that actually. Thank you for reminding me. And people, we need to buy people. Don't forget that. I'm not even joking. It sounds funny, but I want to buy people, fam. I think I want to get into business of what's the word? What is this thing called? Um, people, the
Uh,
smuggling people.
into a sushi.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Smuggling people and sushi. But fam, if you're looking at the top of the cloud, it's
Smuggling sushi people.
hmm?
Smuggling sushi people.
There's what is this? Lido. There's I have a lot of signals for
Like
shorts.
the market is not moving at all. Like it's looking like it's either going to blow up or go down.
Don't say that. I wouldn't be so sure. But you're right with that statement. But what I would be shorting is ether. This,
No, I'm like saying I'm saying it's like looking like it's going to go up or it's going to go down, but very hard.
yeah, you're not wrong. So I think my trade will be. I think my trade will be. Oh, look at this bad boy. We're gonna look for coins too long, and we're going to look for coins too short. Either direction, we're gonna win this night. I promise you. We're gonna come up with a plan. We're gonna have Twitter open, and we're gonna like see zero hedge talk, I guess, about this fucking thing. Um, look, this fam market USDT dominance is
Yeah,
bullish.
yeah, yeah, I just checked it. I just checked it.
So we gotta do our due diligence every day. Bitcoin looks like shit. Ether looks like shit. Let's look at where they are daily. That's important, isn't it? Very important. What is this Bitcoin? You don't mind this black chart? It's okay. It's clear.
Where? No,
My
like
chart is
yeah,
black.
yeah, yeah, I know, I noticed.
Dark.
You had white, right?
Yeah, my eyes hurt. My eyes hurt, man.
Yeah, that's why mine is black too.
Yeah. So I'm sick of talking about Bitcoin every day. Why don't you take it from me, man? Talk to me about what you see here on the Bitcoin chart
I see, like
on a daily,
there's
and I'll do.
nothing much to say, but else just to get ready. I think on the daily for Bitcoin. On the daily we look bullish, definitely bullish. But at this point, looks like we can go down, we can go up.
We need a a real look. Fake out, fake out, fake out.
Yeah, I really don't have anything to add. Like I'm just waiting. I'm waiting for those 5 minutes to come to
Hmm.
see what the men have to say.
Where are we
I
watching
wanna see
this?
the
Where
answer.
where are we watching this old man?
Mm, that one I haven't figured out yet. I guess I will find some site or something.
Let's see here.
Maybe
Where to watch
maybe in
Jerome?
investing.com.
I don't wanna. Oh, here it is. The Fed Life. No. Federal Reserve live video. Is that today? That's today. 19th. Ah, here.
I found mine myself.
I got it here. From the Federal Reserve himself.
Yeah,
You can't go wrong with the Feds. Let's put it
yeah.
like this.
Today at 6 in my country. 5 minutes, 4 minutes.
How do I hide this bar here? I don't like it. At the bottom. Taskbar.
What about? That's
That's
about? Mm.
yeah.
Yeah, you can play with the options over there.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Like you see, we even we are waiting. So I guess so the other people is waiting too. This is the situation right now in the market.
Yeah.
The less experienced people will put trades right now and get trapped in those traps they have by the big money who is placing their orders right now to just push out those shorts or the longs to get them stops, and the more experienced people just waiting for this oldie to talk. I guess.
You're right, but sorry, I have no reaction because I'm coughing real bad. Oh God. But you're
It's
very
fine.
right. The experience waiting. We're waiting to see where it's going, and we don't want to lose 1 cent.
Yeah,
I'm not.
I rather lose a chance instead of losing money.
Oh yeah, yeah, and you said it beautifully. We don't like losing money. We don't mind losing opportunities.
Yeah,
The beautiful thing about our market is we have a 24-hour market. We can wait for the right opportunity.
and I guess when he will talk, a lot of manipulation can happen. So
Well,
this is the thing we should worry about
no,
as well.
just a lot of gamblers, I guess. A lot of degen gamblers.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. Then he spits some blah 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 blah, and then the market is starting to move. Okay.
Look at the daily candle right now.
Where should
No one
it's like
cares. It did not move from today. Look at the
uh,
opening
yeah, nothing, no action at this day.
at all. What are we trading here? It's so boring. Boring is good.
Good.
Boring is good. Boring is I get to play some Dota today, and you get to be with your brother today. So it all happened for the
Yeah, I'm
best.
just waiting for him to talk, and so I know what to do next. But
Look at this 4 hour candle.
yeah, I'm on the 4 hours. It's like, oh,
Um,
Jesus.
indicator. Did you know that you can add Ichimoku Cloud?
Of course, it is a true honor
No.
today
No.
to have Chair
Well,
Jay
who's
Powell
speaking?
and former Chair and Nobel laureate Ben Bernanke with us today. Thank you very much for being here. I've very much been looking forward to this conversation. I'm sure our audience
Watch
has
this.
too.
Let's open the one
So
minute
let's just
chat.
get to it. This conference,
Fight.
as everyone knows, is
Is this for
dedicated
fun?
to the memory
Still,
of Thomas Laubach.
People
And
pumping
earlier
and
this
pumping.
morning, we heard some personal reflections on working with
I'm not
Thomas
interested.
from Secretary Janet
Just for
Yellen,
fun,
also
huh?
former chair of the Fed, and from President John Williams. And both of you worked closely with Tomas as well. So I'd like to give you both an
Haha,
opportunity
here's
to
the
share your own
market.
thoughts about Thomas's contributions as an economist,
Here
as a
it
central
comes, man.
banker, as a colleague. Ben, maybe we can start
You're
with you.
waiting for this, yeah?
Sure, and it's great to be here.
Yeah, I'm here.
I
Oh
was
my God.
Tomas's thesis advisor,
It's
and
in
he
the
worked with me on a
it's
book
so
Maybe-
on
funny
inflation
how it
targeting when he was
creates
still a
this
graduate
game,
student.
like this
That was a
psychology
long
game.
time ago.
I'm
He was
Absolutely.
not in his exalted
I
position at the
I think
Fed when
Bitcoin
I
has the
was
best shot.
doing
I mean,
Jay's
by
job.
Like big
So
money
I
will
don't
sit
have
and wait.
a
Like he will see
short
what will be the
anecdotes to give,
reaction
but I
of
do
the
want to
people
say
when they will bid on
that
the
I think
Jerome
there's sort of
Yeah.
Powell
two kinds
words.
of accomplishments
Oh, we're
that
going too long.
can have.
Hey, this is a good
Curriculum
thing. Then the
vitae
big money will act
accomplishments,
to
and they
push
can
them
have
out
what I
from
call
those long.
eulogy accomplishments.
This is
Absolutely.
what I want to
Curriculum
protect.
vitae accomplishments are things like
I
published
want to ride
papers
with
and
this big money.
promotions and awards and recognition.
Because we're a small fish,
Eulogy
fam.
accomplishments
We
are the
need
things
to.
your family remembers. You know,
Yeah.
your kindness, your support, helping other people, and so on. Thomas was one of the few people
Is
who
he speaking already?
Yeah.
scored high
Can you hear me?
on both dimensions.
Can you hear the background?
On the CV
I see,
side,
yeah.
beginning with his work with me, he had
No.
a tremendous input into the Federal Reserve's framework, working on inflation targeting, working on the more recent Fed framework. He did work, I'm sure John Williams talked about his work with Tomas on the natural rate. He worked on the effects
Oh,
of
they don't have a
deficits on
video of
interest
the-
rates, again,
of
another
him
contribution. So a person who made
I
a lot
have
of
it open on
intellectual
Discord now.
contributions at important points. But as a person, he was just a very warm, kind, friendly, helpful person, and he was just a joy to work with. And I'm glad to be here to say this about him.
Thank you. Jay?
Thank you, Trevor. So
Powell
first of all, let
with
me
the
say
papers.
This conference is a very
Yeah,
fitting
of course he is.
tribute to Tomas, and I'm
Oh my
How
god.
should I?
honored to be
I'm
part
so
of it.
excited, fam. I'm
And
not gonna
again,
lie.
My thanks to those of us who made
How
all this
should I
happen here
move the
today.
bucket?
So I first met
You don't do
Tomas,
nothing,
when
fam.
he
You just
joined
watch
the board
this.
as a governor in May 2012, almost exactly 11 years ago. And in preparing to join the board, and then in the early years at the board, I was very focused on
This is like
developing
power
a deeper
for one
background
person.
in
Oh my
macroeconomics
God.
and monetary
He has enough
policy.
power to move
Many people
anything.
here at the board supported me in
Oh
that
my God.
process. Too many to name here, but I will say Tomas really stood out. And it was during the process of
Let's
reading
look at the Dexy.
the literature and discussing it that I really started to get to know him.
Look at this, fam.
Great ability to communicate
Yeah.
complicated
This is 1 minute
ideas.
chat, yeah?
He obviously
This is when he spoke
talking
here.
about economics, and his great enthusiasm and willingness to engage with me.
Oh, I do one
new
thing.
governor was,
You can watch it on your
immediately,
screen,
and
but
he
I'll
was
show you what
very
I can do on my
gracious to
screen.
me, and we had a lot of informative discussions. So rather than being his teacher, I was really his student in those early years. As you know, by the time, as you noted, Troy, by the time I became chair in 2018, Tomas was the head of the Division of Monetary Affairs. And in that role,
What
he
is
was a
this?
trusted advisor to me and to the FOMC. His leadership was particularly important as the FOMC conducted our
Whoa.
first ever public monetary policy review. He played a major
you go.
role in organizing that, identifying key topics, and organizing the staff all through the Federal Reserve System. He also played an absolutely essential role
S&P is moving
during
nice.
the critical
S&P
period of the
500.
pandemic at the very beginning, when we were marshaling our forces
Let me
and our
open it up.
tools to stabilize the financial system and protect the economy
Looks
from
good
even more dire
on the 4
consequences.
hours.
And
Looks
through
good
it all, he
on
he
the
did
8
come
hours.
through as
Looks good
not
even
just
on the
for his
1 hour.
dedication, his great
On
intellect,
the 8
and
hours
his
even.
mastery
I'm
of
calling a
economics,
that's
but also
a
just for his
range high, fam.
kindness as a human being, and just as in being a terrific
We wait for it.
You
colleague and a great person.
But you have said something
you.
smart
there's a
that
lot
I
of
like.
link for
The
the
first
sentiments
move
that
is,
both of you
is always
expressed.
wrong. So
Appreciate that.
This move is
Before
wrong,
we
fam.
get to some questions on
I don't
some
believe
issues,
this.
I did want to
If
ask
we
you both
retest
about
it
any
and go up,
formative
sure.
experiences that you may have had to
Yeah.
shape your views, particularly about your
Let's
thinking
look
about
at the-
monetary policy. Paul Volcker, in his oral history interview, tells the story of his mother, who was adamant that he received the same dollar value monthly allowance when he was in college that his older sisters did 10 years prior. And of course, he was not too happy about that because inflation in the interim obviously eroded the real purchasing power of that allowance. So as the story goes, that was the beginning of his...
This is just old man speaking, fam. Like,
So Jay, do you have any such stories to tell?
Maybe not quite that on point, but so I graduated from college in 1975 during what we now call the Great Inflation, and same college year as Ben. And I started working as a lawyer in the
There's still
financial
not
sector
much
in the late
infection.
1970s. I recall
because this
from
is
that
a
time
this is
growing
this is
sense
a nothing
that
burger.
inflation was essentially a permanent part of the landscape, just something that we all
I can't
had
hear
to
what he's
accept
saying,
and
but
deal with, and that the costs
it
of
seems
getting
like
rid of it were too high.
people
So you just were
have
getting
nothing
used
to
it.
do with this information,
Of
right?
course,
Nothing.
ultimately the Fed did step up and restore price stability. One
Let's see
lesson
if he
from
will
that era
surprise us
is that
with some
price
magical
stability
word.
is really
There's
the
no surprise,
foundation
fam.
of
This
strong
is a short,
economy,
fam.
and that the economy doesn't work for
If
anyone
if he
without
says
price stability.
nothing bullish,
Another is that high inflation
Yeah, well,
it is when we have
it's a
high
short
inflation,
for
it
sure.
is the responsibility and the obligation of the central bank to restore and sustain price stability. So today, while inflation isn't as high as it was when I was in college, it's nonetheless far above our 2% objective, and many people are currently experiencing high inflation for the first time in their lives. It's not a headline to say that they really don't like it. So we are very aware that high inflation imposes significant hardship as it reduces purchasing power, especially for those who are at the margins of the economy and living paycheck to paycheck and need to use all of their incoming income to pay for food, housing, and transportation and other essentials. And that's why the
Nothing,
committee
fam.
is so strongly committed to returning to our 2% goal.
See,
We think
they
that
want to
failing
return
to
to
get
2%.
inflation down would not only prolong
Well,
the pain,
Powell.
but also increase
All right,
ultimately
then. We will
the
see
social
you.
costs of getting back
He
to price
just
stability,
he showed his
causing even
stance.
greater harm to families and businesses, and we aim to avoid that by remaining steadfast in pursuit of our goals.
Thank you. Ben?
Did you hear that?
I had mentors,
What?
Dale
Did-
Jorgensen at Harvard and Stanley Fisher at MIT
tell
in
you soon.
particular, but I'm going to tell you about
That's bearish,
something
fam.
that happened
That's
to me when I was
that's
6 years
hawkish.
old.
But
I
the
used to
market
visit
knows this
my
already.
grandparents in Charlotte, North Carolina during the summer, and I would sit on the front porch of their house and
Yeah.
listen to my grandmother tell stories about.
But we know this already.
And she told about how
Yeah.
she raised her family in Connecticut.
But
in
I
the
don't get it. Why are we
1930s during the
bullish on the
Depression.
daily?
And it was a town that
We're
was
not bullish on
specializing
the
in
daily. We
shoe
broke down
manufacturing,
already, fam.
and during the Depression, a lot of the
We
factories
are?
were shut down.
Yeah, it's a change
She
of
told me
character.
that,
I'll show you.
you know, it was a very hard time. A lot of the kids went to school in tattered shoes, or maybe no shoes at
I'll show
all.
you.
No,
I
don't
said,
get it.
Grandma,
Sorry.
why would they do that? And she said, well,
No.
because their fathers lost their jobs.
Like,
Why did they lose
am
their
I,
jobs?
is it the right to
Because the shoe
to
factory
do
shut
like
down.
if I'm recognizing
I
the
was
change
only
of
6 years old, but I could see the
character?
problem with that
by
argument.
yeah
And I said,
by
well, why didn't they just
searching for
open the
Boston
shoe
church?
factories and make
This
shoes
is a
for
valid
the children?
way
And
to
she
do
said,
it.
doesn't work that way. But I
Yeah.
think it really was
Give me a
puzzle to
second.
me that
I'll show you.
had the same productive capacity in 1933 that you had in 1928.
This is
In
bullish.
1928, people
Oh,
were
wait, no,
dancing
sorry.
to Charleston. In 1933, they were in bread lines. And that it was
Okay,
impressed
this is
on me,
bullish.
you know, that economics can make really big difference in people's
Okay.
lives. And monetary
But we
policy
have
is like
broke
that. I mean,
down
as Jay, of course, and all of you
and
well
trying to
know,
go up.
the
Oh,
decisions made
no
in
strength.
this building
Okay,
have
we
This
broke
is a
like
change
that.
of character,
broad
fam.
and real
There's
effect
the
on
church.
people's
Like,
lives.
okay.
And,
Yeah.
for that
You
reason,
know about
besides
the post that I made
intellectual
recently.
fascination, it's worth studying. and
See that?
understanding.
Is the change of character.
Thank you. I know that's certainly a key motivation for many people in this room to be working so
Okay,
hard.
I see.
Okay, let's now turn to some topics of more current interest. And I'd like to start with the
All righty
nexus
then.
between the financial system and the macro.
Especially here. Oh, here it is.
Both of
It's
you,
very important.
during your 10 years as chair, have faced very significant historic financial
See?
crises. Ben, obviously, you confronted the global financial crisis, and Jay, the global pandemic. Those episodes were clearly
Watch this dumb, fam.
very vivid examples of the connections between the macroeconomy and the financial
And
system.
watch the US dollar
As
rally,
well
fam.
as I think a good illustration of the role of central banks
Watch this.
in such episodes.
Looks like it
And
will
your
rally
research,
the USD.
importantly, and the research that you have inspired,
Of course it is.
has really
What a
demonstrated
fight.
that understanding
What a
the
volume in a fight.
connections
Look,
between
look
Nope.
at the
financial
like.
sector,
Look at
capital
this.
markets,
As we speak,
and
right?
banks
And
the
look at
real
us as
economy
we speak.
is
We're
critical for
rubbish,
even
fam.
understanding traditional business
stayed?
models.
And then
So
do
with
this
that as
chat.
background, we have just experienced a period of
There we
stress in
go.
certain parts of the banking system here in the United States.
Done,
So I want
fam.
to get your take on those developments, how you think they
Okay,
match
so-
up compared to some
I think I'm
previous
DCAing
episodes
into
and
short.
what they might mean for the economy.
Well, in some dimension, the recent
I think I'm DCAing into
crisis
short,
has
fam.
followed the standard sequence.
But Ether.
I don't know anything about Silicon Valley Bank other than
Ether
what I read
as
in the
well.
paper,
Yeah.
so please
Yeah,
don't
me
misinterpret
Ether, fam.
this. But it was a classic situation where they had assets that were subject to risk, and in particular, as interest rates rose, the value of their long-term assets fell and their capital fell. They had hoped to hedge that by
Hear this.
their deposit franchise, where as interest rates rose and interest rates moved more slowly on deposits, that would partially compensate. But they were dealing
I'm shorting
with
Ether, fam.
customers who were very media
On my
social media savvy, and that didn't really work. So after the decline in capital, you had the second stage, which is runs, people taking out their money,
yeah.
which ultimately led.
I'll be honest.
to,
I'm a big
collapse
fan
of
of
the
Jerome
bank.
Powell, fam.
Despite, I may add, good efforts of the Fed and the
You know, he's not
FDIC
doing
to
that bad,
liquidity and provide
considering the amount of
support,
mess
for
that
depositors.
the Americans
the
left
third
him.
stage of a banking crisis is contagion.
Really?
And people looked at
He's
other
not doing
banks and
that
said,
bad.
"Oh, they look sort of vaguely
We
like
just don't like him
Silicon Valley Bank,
because
got the same number of letters
no,
in their
we
name,
we
you
just
know,
don't like him
things
because
that,
you
and
know
that
he
caused,
moves a market,
that
fam.
caused people to begin to
Yeah,
remove,
well,
you know,
that
deposits
This
elsewhere.
is
And
obvious.
finally,
He moving the money.
the reason
If
this
it
is
doesn't move
important
it the way we want to. So
is that it
most
ultimately
people say.
affects credit conditions.
Nature.
And the Federal Reserve is, of
Well,
course,
I'm not
looking at
hating,
the
but
effects of
the
bank
power
problems
that he
and
have,
other
like,
financial issues
So
on
powerful, huh?
the extension of credit
Yeah.
and therefore on the
Scary,
real
to be honest.
economy.
Very.
So, you know, in that respect, I think it's very
Someone
similar
with
to
such power
other
in his
crises.
hands.
I think it's
Marwan
different
should have
from
all
the
this
global
power, huh?
financial crisis in many
He,
ways.
he can move
including
money.
its
He
scale
doesn't
and
have
scope, of
to
course,
even
but,
stand up.
I would
He
mention a couple of things
You're
without
funny,
big-
fam.
differences. One
he
is
can
that
fart and
impaired
move the
asset
bucket.
in this
It's
case
true,
was
it's
US
true.
Treasuries, which are very
It's
different assets.
Like
in
who
kind
knows if
from
he get like
subprime
upset
mortgages,
one morning and he
in that
decides
US
some decisions,
Treasuries
he
can
started to
always
talk.
be valued
Oh my
accurately.
God.
And
Too
so
much
there's not
power,
the
huh?
uncertainty that was associated
I
with
don't know if it's too much,
subprime
but
mortgages. And secondly, as the
I
economy
guess, like,
declines, if it does
I hope
decline,
He
I
does the
hope-
right
I
thing.
hope
treasuries actually become more valuable
he knows how
rather
to
than
deal
less
with it,
valuable.
you know?
So there's kind of a
Yeah.
counter-cyclical effect. So that's one very important difference, I think. And then the other worth mentioning, but very important,
I don't
is
believe
that
politics, to
relative
be
to, say,
honest.
the
I hate
GFC or the
politicians.
Great
Of
Depression,
course.
I hate
overall,
the ones who
borrowers are in
sitting
much
there.
better shape.
I
you know,
hate
than they
people
were,
with ties and
in these
suitcases
previous
that
episodes.
decides
So that
for
makes a
me
big
how to
difference,
live,
both in
where
terms
to
of the
live.
stability of the
Yeah.
banks
I hate them.
and also in terms
I
of
want
the
to live
impact
the way
on
I want to
consumer
live. I will
spending
do whatever
and
the
the
fuck I
economy in
want to do.
general.
You can put me some rules as
A
long
major
as they're
reason the
reasonable,
situation
but
didn't get worse. and I
Yeah.
think
you
the
won't tell me
contagion
what
was
to
very
eat,
much
what to
contained
do,
were
what
the forceful
to
actions
say.
today that
They
the
definitely,
Federal Reserve took
they
through
definitely
the use of
won't
new
do that, fam.
liquidity tools, including
I
the
will,
creation
yeah,
of the Bank Term Funding Program.
this is how I look at those things. But
However, in deploying these liquidity tools, that has
for
come,
now,
against
I'm
this
under
backdrop
those
where the
rules.
preeminent
So
monetary
For now.
policy concern
what can we
is
do?
high inflation, and that's of course
Yeah.
a
Not
little
for long,
different
fam.
from some of the earlier
Not for long, fam.
episodes, and has raised
Not for
renewed
long.
discussions about the so-called separation
If it's not
principle,
now,
right? And so
it's
I wanted
one
to
day,
ask
fam.
you how you think about the use of financial stability
I have
tools
the
and
whole
liquidity
time in the
tools
world.
as opposed
yeah.
to more traditional monetary policy tools
Here it
and
is.
how they fit together.
It's an interesting question, but I want to start by saying, though, that the overall, the banks and the banking system are strong and resilient and well-positioned to deal with the challenges they may face now or in the future. So, as you pointed out, we do have separate tools, monetary policy to achieve our macroeconomic objectives, liquidity, supervisory, and regulatory tools to address financial stability issues. But I see an important distinction between separation, this is the separation principle, separation and independence.
So fam,
Our tools
I
can
guess
have
I will
separate
fold off.
objectives, but
I'm
their
going
effects
to
are
meet
often
my
not
brother.
entirely independent.
No, this is
have
not
some-
important,
So
fam.
the tools are
Believe me.
complementary
This is
almost all
rubbish,
the time
fam.
because
Go,
financial
go,
and
go, go.
Yeah,
macroeconomic stability are so
I'll do some
deeply
stuff and I
intertwined.
will be on the charts
In fact,
later
our
on, so
consensus
if you will
statement,
be online, I will catch up.
notes that
Oh, yeah.
And I will-
sustainably achieving
and I need to
maximum
do some work
achievement
on
I
of
will.
stability depends on a stable
All right,
financial
take it
system.
easy, bro. Thanks for coming
So
in.
because they're so intertwined,
Thank you.
there's not likely to be an absolute
Have a
Take it
good one.
easy.
and complete
Thank you,
separation
thank you.
of the tools, nor is that
Bye-bye.
possible or
Bye-bye.
desirable. And I think as Ben's research and the global financial crisis demonstrated, financial stability affects macroeconomic
The
stability.
first
and
move is
vice versa.
wrd.
We saw that clearly at the outset
The
of the
first
pandemic.
move is
As a result,
wrong.
the tools
Give
that
me
we
my
use to
first
address
trade, man.
concerns in either arena can and will affect both, especially during extreme circumstances. That said, yes, the tools are separate, they have individual purposes, and most of the time each can be used for its intended purpose without compromising the other. For example, as you pointed out, when banking stresses emerged in early March, we used our liquidity tools, discount window and the Bank Term Funding Program, to make liquidity available to banks that might need it. And that liquidity supported the stability of the financial system without restricting the use of our monetary policy tools to promote price stability. While the financial stability tools help to calm conditions in the banking sector, developments there, on the other hand, are contributing to tighter credit conditions and are likely to weigh on economic growth, hiring, and inflation. So as a result, our policy rate may not need to rise as much as it would have otherwise to achieve our goals. Of course, the extent of that is highly uncertain. So.
Yeah, thank you. And of course, I think the effectiveness of those tools is reflected in the fact that the FOMC has actually raised interest rates twice since the emergence of the banking strains. Of course, the purpose of that is to confront the inflation issue, which brings us to our next topic, which is in fact inflation. In the pandemic and the aftermath, we've had many renewed discussions of the important and classic textbook distinction between supply shocks and demand shocks, and in particular the particular challenges that a supply shock can present to a central bank. And that's also raised a lot of questions in academia and in policy circles as to whether or not the inflation process post-pandemic is going to look quite different than before. Jay, maybe we can start with you. A number of folks have argued that we are entering a new period where supply shocks will be more frequent. Would love to hear your views on whether you think that's a possibility and what that might mean for central banks.
So it's a great question, and it's one I think we'll be dealing with for quite a long time. And I'd say it's certainly possible that we'll see continued supply shocks. I also think it's just very hard to forecast that with any confidence. As Yogi Berra is thought to have said, Ben, you're the baseball expert, you can confirm or deny this, but it is difficult to make predictions, especially about the future. So I think that the best we can do at this stage is probably to just identify the factors that we think can lead to further negative supply shocks.
Told you it was going to run up.
Though that positive supply shocks related to globalization largely probably contributed significantly to the period of low inflation that either ended or was interrupted by the onset of the pandemic. And I'm thinking there of the vast increase in global labor supply, the development of efficient global supply chains, facilitated by technological advances and things like that. And I would say those positive supply shocks do not seem likely to be repeated. At the same time, the drivers of the current inflationary surge certainly included a sequence of large negative supply shocks to the global supply chain for goods, which also experienced a large and persistent shift in demand from services to goods, and also the supply of workers. On top of that, Russia's war against Ukraine brought further shocks to global supply chains, particularly supplies of energy and non-energy commodities. So we can't know how persistent those shocks will be or whether further negative supply shocks will come along. Will globalization be partially or fully halted or reversed? Will it resume again as the pandemic mercifully recedes into memory? We can't really know that now. But for policymakers, the bottom line is that central banks will continue to be responsible for providing price stability, and that will require us to navigate whatever additional supply shocks do occur. So as Tomas and Ben and their co-authors wrote in the inflation targeting book, what a central bank can do is control inflation. And that is true over time, even in the presence of supply shocks, should they come.
Ben, we'd love to hear your views on this.
So unusual events which disrupt normal economic functioning often are followed by inflation. Examples are World War I, World War II, the Korean War, and now the pandemic. And the pandemic just makes it harder for policymakers to understand what's happening and to react appropriately. And in particular, the pandemic scrambled the labor market, made it harder to judge the state of the labor market. The opening led to a very extended rise in commodity prices, which was difficult to deal with. We had supply chain issues, which was pretty much a new thing, which was also a contributor to inflation. So there are many features of the pandemic that made this an unusual episode and a difficult episode to address. That being said, I think that, and I've done some research on this with Olivier Blanchard that we're presenting next week, the basic mechanisms, I think, are still the same. But you have a bunch of bad shocks, that's going to give you a problem. But the underlying mechanisms of supply shocks and tight labor markets and so on are really the same. So I think, I don't think there's been a major change in the underlying process that generates inflation, only a series of shocks related to the pandemic that gave us this episode. Going forward, I agree with Jay that we can't predict, what new shocks will come. We've got new technologies out there that might, make big changes in our economy. We've got, green investment, things like that might affect the price and availability of fossil fuels. And so there are many, many things that we can't predict. But I think that broadly speaking that the inflation process has not changed, and it's one aspect of that, which is very good news, is that the Federal Reserve's credibility has helped keep inflation expectations, particularly longer-term inflation expectations, reasonably well anchored, which is always sort of the first step in getting control of inflation.
You mentioned the role of the labor market tightness in the inflation process. I think it's quite striking that right on the eve of the pandemic, the unemployment rate was around 3.5%.
Beautiful.
5-decade low. Yet at the same time, inflation was kind of struggling to get up to 2% on a sustained basis. Here we are in 2023. The unemployment rate is roughly at the same level as it was prior to the pandemic, but of course inflation is far above 2%. So in that context, should we be thinking about the relationship between slack in the labor market and inflation differently? Do we not have the right measures of slack? Is it the problems with understanding what the natural rate of unemployment is? Or is slack really not the key to understanding inflation in the first place? Ben, you want to take that one first?
As I was talking about before, I think that the pandemic, to some extent, scrambled the usual signals from the labor market. And the Federal Reserve over time has begun to put more weight on things like the vacancy to unemployment ratio, which seems to give a better signal in a period of change when the labor market matching process is in change than the unemployment rate. So there has been some scrambling of those signals. That being said, it's simply not true that, even in people who've understood since the 70s that there's not a simple inverse relationship between inflation and unemployment. In particular, what can break that relationship is supply shocks. And so during the 70s, we didn't particularly have tight labor markets most of the time. We had high inflation, A, because we had oil price shocks, which the Fed did not respond to adequately, B, because inflation expectations were not well anchored, and there was a strong tendency for price increases to feed into wage increases, to feed into price increases. So because of the presence of supply shocks and inflation expectations dynamics, there's no reason why low unemployment and high inflation can't coexist. But the remedies might be, depending on the situation, might be somewhat different.
Jay, how are you thinking about that?
So I'm very much in agreement with that. It's certainly true that we had, both before and after the pandemic, unemployment very low, close to 3.5%, but that we only had high inflation after the pandemic. Does that mean that our understanding of the relationship between slack and inflation is badly wrong, or that it has changed fundamentally after the pandemic? And my answer would be tentatively no to both of those questions. I think what really is different this time was the series of unexpected and persistent supply shocks that featured in the inflation process. I don't think labor market slack was a particularly important feature of inflation when it first spiked in spring of 2021. By contrast, I do think that labor market slack is likely to be an increasingly important factor in inflation going forward. In particular, inflation in non-housing services is showing signs of real persistent. In this highly diverse sector, labor costs are a high proportion of total costs, and that sector happens to account for more than half of the core PCE index. But all of this, the point is, all of this can be explained, I think, using our standard framework for understanding labor market slack. You could say it this way, that the natural rate of employment probably rose sharply as the pandemic severely disrupted the labor market. And the implication of that would be that an unemployment rate of, say, 4% indicated a much tighter labor market in 2021 than it did in 2018. And as Ben mentioned, of course, after the pandemic, we began looking at much more closely at alternative measures, particularly vacancies, but also quits, which have been signaling even greater tightness than the unemployment rate alone might have thought to have been to signal. I mean, to put some numbers on it, we at the end of 2018 and the end of 2021, we had 4% roughly unemployment in both cases. In 2018, the vacancies to unemployment ratio was 1-to-1 essentially. In 2021, it was 2-to-1. And that was a much better indicator, obviously, at that time of the simple standalone unemployment rate. Although, as I mentioned, you could also think of it as the natural rate being highly elevated. The other thing is, it may also be the case that the Phillips curve has steepened, meaning that inflation has returned, at least for now, to being more responsive to changes in the labor market slack. But the Phillips curve was once thought to be fairly steep after flattening. Relationships in the economy, like the Phillips curve, evolve over time, so I would not characterize that as a problem for our understanding of inflation.
Very good, thank you. Maybe we can pivot here to the topic of central bank communications. It's widely understood now that the better the public understands the conduct of monetary policy, the more effective it will be. But fostering that type of understanding really requires a lot of communications, and of course that can be hard. Both of you have been powerful advocates for advancing monetary policy communications, both with an eye toward making policy more effective, but also for the purposes of promoting transparency and accountability. Ben, you've obviously played a critical role here, advancing the FOMC's communications, including the introduction of press conferences after FOMC meetings, the introduction of the Summary of Economic Projections. So what changes over this period since the communication, say, revolution began, would you highlight as being some of the most effective, most important, and where do some remaining challenges exist?
Well, let me talk about communication, because I think you need to understand that it serves multiple purposes. I mean, one of its purposes, the narrow purpose, is to try to align market expectations with the Fed's own thinking. I think that goes back to Alan Greenspan. If you go back to 1994, the first FOMC statement, I mean, since then, the Fed has tried at least to give some indication of what it's thinking and what it sees as the risks to the economy. But beyond that, you mentioned transparency and accountability. This is a powerful institution. It's very important that it be accountable to the Congress and to the public, and best way to do that is explain what we think, what we're doing, and how we're going to go about that. There's other reasons for communication. One I would talk about is feedback. We're having a conference here. If the Fed puts out the issues that it's concerned about, economists will write articles or tweet and respond to that. Or in the case of the Fed Listens program, maybe it would be more ordinary people who are explaining how monetary policy affects them. One final thing I would mention is diversity of views. Because the Fed has a consensus culture and there are very few dissents normally, the outside perception is the Fed is subject to groupthink, which of course is possible, but with people talking about their own views and explaining why they see the economy as they do, it does, I think, at least to some extent, show that there is a range of opinion on the committee. In terms of tools, I guess I do feel proud about the press conferences, which I introduce 4 times a year after the Summary of Economic Projections, in which Chair Powell has taken to an art form. And I think also, just the inflation target, the forecasts that we release, and there's a cultural change, which some people don't like, but I think on net is good, which is, it used to be, if you look back at speeches in the Greenspan era, the president of the Federal Reserve Bank of Minneapolis, would talk about, harvests or something, wouldn't talk very much about the global or national economy. Now you have a lot of people talking about, the different aspects of the Federal Reserve's views, and again, that contributes to both market transparency and also to accountability to the local constituency and to the national constituency.
Jay, you of course have continued to push forward on the communications and transparency fronts. Welcome your thoughts.
I think the broader setting is that transparency is especially important today. Polling data show that many important public and private institutions globally have struggled to retain the public's trust and support in recent years. Now, we're an institution that serves a critical public mission, but to be here and work here is to know that the particulars of what we do and how we do it are not generally top of mind for most people. And on top of that, we have a critical and a rare grant of independence. And all of that, to me, means that we have a special obligation to explain ourselves clearly, what we do, why we do it, to provide transparency to the public and their elected representatives in Congress, so that we can earn and deserve their trust and support. And that's a critical task if we are going to sustain our democratic legitimacy through this interesting period. My colleagues and I really take that as a primary and affirmative, proactive obligation, and not something we see as a burden or of second order importance. So in that spirit, to your point, we have followed the example of Chairman Greenspan, beginning in 1994 with the first post-meeting statement, through Ben's innovations, and Janet as well, in looking to foster greater transparency and accountability. And a couple of examples, we now do a press conference after every meeting, not just every other one. We have greatly expanded our congressional outreach to be certain that we hear directly from lawmakers on an ongoing basis, so that they have the information that they need to conduct appropriate oversight. As I mentioned, in 2019 and 20, we conducted a public review of our monetary policy framework, seeking input from a broad range of people and groups all around the country. We've also significantly expanded transparency beyond monetary policy. For example, we now publish semi-annual financial stability and supervision and regulation reports. Of course, there are always communication challenges, especially I find about communicating the uncertainty that attends our assessments of economic conditions and the outlook. The good example of this is, despite our persistent efforts to explain otherwise, the policy paths from the SEP seem regularly to be taken as a firm plan or a committee decision, rather than what they are, which is a compilation of individual participants' best assessments on a particular day of appropriate policy under the assumption that conditions evolve in line with their baseline forecasts. So that's just a challenge that we constantly face in the context of great uncertainty. Despite that, I would say, though, that the Summary of Economic Projections has actually been very useful during this tightening cycle, as markets have looked ahead and priced in future rate hikes, long before they're actually implemented.
Your last point really brings up the idea of communications as being an effective policy tool. And I guess the key element of that is the use of forward guidance. Jay, in one school of thought, forward guidance is a tool that should really only be deployed when interest rates are at the effective lower bound. And so you can no longer provide accommodation by lowering rates further, and so you do so through communicating about the policy path in the future. But another school of thought, forward guidance should be just a regular part of communicating with the public to convey the committee's policy intentions, even far away from the effective lower bound. Where do you come out in that debate?
Well, I do think it depends on circumstances. I do think that forward guidance can be useful when policymakers have a materially different or clearer view of the likely path of policy than does the interested public. I would agree at the effective lower bound when we need to provide more stimulus by indicating an intent to keep policy accommodative longer than the public expects. There's a use case there. I also would say, though, that communication comes with a cost of misinterpretation, and it also may limit flexibility. So I think we should use forward guidance sparingly when the course of policy is either reasonably well understood or, on the contrary, is so dependent on uncertain future developments that little can be said constructively about the future.
What a masterpiece.
The March 2020 FOMC.
Here we go.
The pandemic shutdowns were just beginning. The level of certainty was almost unimaginable, and we chose not to issue an SEP at that point. Really, our view was that releasing a forecast at that time might have been more of an obstacle to clear communication than a help. In contrast, as I mentioned a minute ago, forward guidance has really been a useful and effective tool during the current tightening cycle, as financial conditions have tightened well in advance of actual rate increases. The 2-year tightened between the September 21 meeting and liftoff in March of 20. It tightened by 200 basis points before we ever actually lifted rates, and that's significantly because of our communication. So in the current context, until recently, it's been relatively clear that further policy firming would be warranted, and our forward guidance has said so. Now, however, we've come a long way in policy tightening, and the stance of policy is restrictive, and we face uncertainty about the lagged effects of our tightening so far and about the extent of credit tightening from recent banking stresses. So today, our guidance is limited to identifying the factors we'll be monitoring as we assess the extent to which additional policy firming may be appropriate to return inflation to 2% over time. As I noted at the last press conference, that assessment will be an ongoing one as we move ahead, meeting by meeting. Having come this far, we can afford to look at the data and the evolving outlook and make careful assessments.
Thank you. Jay, you mentioned that guidance can be useful at times when the public may expect a very different policy path than policymakers. How do you think about those sorts of situations?
You're right. So recently it has sometimes been the case that markets appear to be pricing in a different rate path than the committee expects will be appropriate. But I would say that that disconnect does not seem to reflect a misunderstanding of our reaction function or a lack of belief that we'll do what's necessary to bring inflation down. Rather, it appears to reflect simply a different forecast, one in which inflation comes down much more quickly than the committee participants think is most likely, perhaps due to a significant downturn. I would say also, so far the data have continued to support the committee's view that bringing inflation down will take some time. Moreover, something we often don't remember to think about is that market prices always reflect both expectations and compensation for risk. And what market participants say in surveys of their expectations is actually closer to the views in the SEP than what is reflected in market pricing. So ultimately, my colleagues and I have our forecasts and market
존나 좋은 분위기에서 이런
participants. Our role is not to advocate for our forecast. What we can do is be clear about our expectations for growth, unemployment, and inflation, and the likely implications for policy. As well, we want the public to understand how policy would react if the path of the economy were to differ materially from our expectations. And of course, we do lay out our individual forecasts quarterly.
Then what would your takeaways be for the past couple of decades' use of forward guidance as a policy tool?
Well, Charlie Evans and co-authors have made a useful distinction between what they call Odyssean and Delphic forward guidance. So Odyssean forward guidance is a commitment forward guidance, which is rarely used, but typically at the lower bound, where the central bank promises to do something, and its credibility on the line, that it will follow a certain path going forward, and that's a way of getting more stimulus. And I think, again, that goes back, again, to Alan Greenspan, I think, to indicate that a certain path was very likely, and that actually helps achieve the objectives. Delphic forward guidance is basically just, here's what we think. Tomorrow we might think something different, but we're just trying to, as part of our transparency, we're just trying to give you a sense of where the economy's going and how we think policy will react. Now, as Jay points out, there are some problems in practice. One is people don't understand the difference all the time between a commitment and a forecast. That's something that Jay has emphasized, and I think should be emphasized. Another is people underestimate the amount of uncertainty involved, which is enormous. So I don't think you can do without some form of forward guidance, because the idea of transparency says, here's what we see, and here's why we're thinking. And so the idea that there's no guidance at all, most of the time, I take March 2020 as a counterexample, but most of the time you do want to give at least a sense of where you think the economy and accordingly policy are heading. I think, just if I might editorialize one more minute, I think one of the issues is that the FOMC is so large and geographically dispersed that it's been difficult to come up with a collective committee forecast. We tried to do that when I was chair. The dot plot is a compromise, which is not ideal. Other central banks do other things. Sometimes they have collective committee forecasts that are voted on, or they use market rates, or they publish the staff forecast. So there are different ways to go about this. But again, I think that forward guidance is both an instrumental tool, but again, letting people know sort of how the central bank sees the evolving situation, even if there's lots of uncertainty, which you can say, normally is part of transparency.
So you highlighted uncertainty as being a key factor in dealing with some of these issues. Obviously, uncertainty is a pervasive feature of monetary policy making, and often invokes the so-called risk management approach to making monetary policy. Maybe we can start, Jay, with you on this topic. The FOMC's raised the federal funds rate by 5 percentage points in a little more than a year. That's a very rapid pace by historical standards, as we all know. How do you view those actions in the context of the uncertainties that you and the committee faced about the economic outlook, and how did risk management considerations factor into your decisions?
So I'll start by remembering that Alan Greenspan famously said that pervasive uncertainty was the defining characteristic of the policy landscape. It's worth remembering that he made that comment during what we now think of as the Great Moderation. So that statement has never been more apt than it is today. If you look back, the pandemic, the global shutdown, the historically forceful response and the reopening, all of that had no modern precedent. So it has been a time of historically elevated uncertainty and of unexpected outcomes. No advanced economy had ever faced a shutdown and a reopening, and now all of them would face it at the same time. So no matter what happened, the outcome was going to be unprecedented. So this level of uncertainty posed real challenges for policy and policy communications. On the one hand, we had to be nimble to be able to respond to the evolving situation. On the other hand, we wanted to be as clear as possible about what we were doing, lest we add to uncertainty. So I would say policy certainly has been nimble, consistent with what within our expectations. The data did actually show declining inflation through September of 2021, but then turned decisively against that expectations thereafter. And in response, we accelerated our policy firming, ultimately, as you noted, raising rates by 500 basis points in just over a year. Over this period, we communicated that the object was to reach a stance of policy that is sufficiently restrictive to return inflation to 2% over time. But we also communicated that the level of rates that would ultimately be required was highly uncertain. Now, until very recently, it's been clear that further policy firming would be required. As policy has become more restricted, the risks of doing too much versus doing too little are becoming more balanced, and our policy has adjusted to reflect that fact. So we haven't made any decisions about the extent to which additional policy firming will be appropriate, but given how far we've come, as I noted, we can afford to look at the data and the evolving outlook and make careful assessments.
Ben, when you became a policymaker, you were well versed in sort of the academic literature on decision making.
Yeah, I moved from that side to this side.
Yeah. How does it work in practice?
I say uncertainty when you're an academic is trying to decide whether your error term is Gaussian or not. In actual policy making, you don't even know what the current quarter GDP is, because it's going to get revised, several times down the road. I remember when I was sitting just as a member of the board, and Greenspan was in the chair, and we had responded to some inflation data, and a little bit later, it turned out that inflation change had been revised away. And I asked the chair, do you think we can revise our interest rate policy? It is very difficult. I mean, got to laugh with that, but just trying to make policy, it involves not just uncertainty about, the data, about the model, about all the things that can happen, about the social and economic and political environment. So it's very difficult, and unfortunately, or fortunately, given that monetary policy works with a lag, given that there are risks on both sides of the modal forecast, there's not much choice but just to accept that uncertainty and try and do the best you can, being ready to adjust as new information arrives.
Very good, thank you. We are getting close to the end of our allotted time. Maybe we could wrap up with just a question looking ahead. Jay, maybe we can start with you. What would you point to as some of the key issues that will be most relevant to the research community as well as to the policymaking community?
So I guess I would start with the labor market, and what we talked about earlier of vacancies in particular, and the beverage curve, and the whole discussion over whether the extraordinarily high level of surplus demand in the labor market can be lessened through the vacancies channel without a significant increase in unemployment. That would be more akin to what has happened in all prior cycles, or most prior cycles. So that's going to be a question that we will resolve empirically, but I think we're learning new things about the workings of the labor market, at least in this one situation. I think on monetary policy, it's going to be interesting to look back and try to understand how inflation spread from what was at the beginning, very focused on the goods sector due to the rotation of demand from services to goods, and the tremendous amount of support that goods purchases got from fiscal and monetary stimulus. How did it spread then through really into the service sector, where it now significantly resides? I think we're seeing much progress on goods, and we have progress in the pipeline on housing services, but where we see persistent inflation is now in the service sector. So what is the mechanism by which that happens, and what are the implications?
Ben, you have the last word.
Well, I think one of the things that I would urge researchers to look at is the relationship between monetary policy and financial stability, a very, very difficult relationship. If you read the papers, you see that everybody has a very strong opinion about this subject, but they don't necessarily correlate. As Mark Twain once said, the things you don't know can hurt you as much as the things that you know for sure but ain't so. I think that we really do not understand, to the extent that we need to, the relationship between different aspects of monetary policy, risk-taking, balance sheet behavior, et cetera. It's just something, there's a lot of good work being done, don't get me wrong, but I think we need to understand much better what the channels are and to quantify the relationship so that we can think about to what extent we need to take that into account in monetary policy.
Very good. Well, let me thank both of you tremendously for sharing your perspectives with us today. It's been a highlight of our conference honoring Thomas Lobach, and so thank you very much. Round of applause.
Well, that was expected, really. I mean, it was priced in. I mean, we're at support right now. If we were bullish, I mean, if it was expected and they knew that they were going to talk about this, there would have been more buy pressure. But I mean, yeah, man, that's a short, yeah. There we go. That's the breakdown. And that's where we short BTC, I think. Alright, old man. We're done. Let's finish up the night. It's the weekend. We're just going to be chatting. I don't know if there's any good trades for me to take. If there is, I'll be taking it. But see a lot of coins rallying right now. See Injective. Running 8% right now, the last 4 hourly. Fetch, Coin, ARPA, Kava, Bell, Tomo, CFX, TUSD. Got Jasmine as well, finally breaking out of that resistance zone. BNX, SAN, these are all the things I'll be looking at, I guess. What time is it? We'll have a brief look at the market together. As you can see, I did not take a single trade. Nice and patience. We'll reset our account to basically what, 1,000. What does this shit cost? How come it costs $10? To do what? Oh, this is the value and this is the cost. Okay, oh, that's easy. Alright. 30 times. What are we doing, really? Nasdaq's pulling back. ES is pulling back. Total 2. Doesn't look good. BTC dominance down. Total 2 is breaking down on its major trend line, so I don't know, man. Like, the real move will come on Monday, so it's better just like, I guess, is just sleep it off this weekend. Wait for the Friday close. Wait for the reaction on Monday. See what Asia thinks. See what London thinks. See what Nifty and the Indians think. I guess that's how I see things. I'm not in a rush to make money. I'm not in a rush to lose money. We're here. I'm still gonna be trading every day, whether I make money or not. We start fresh. 1,000 USDT on KuCoin, 1,000 USDT on Bybit, alts. Okay, we're gonna be doing alts. Let me make a quick recording actually for TikTok, right? So let's see. All right. Yeah. Hello TikTok. Sorry about the absence. I was just finalizing everything. Now I'm starting a new 1K challenge. Make it nice and easy. Bitcoin, I'm taking 5% risk per trade. Altcoins, I'm taking 1% risk per trade, regardless of what it is. Okay. Now I will have them both on attract a record here. Okay. There. File. Open. Bitcoin. And KuCoin. Okay. All same thing. I didn't really take the trade, so if it's on zero, I don't give a shit. At the end of the day, I'm not here to lose money. I'm here to make money. I'm not too particular on when I should take the trade. If it's good, it's good. No one is going to force a trade out of me. After the whole speech, this is what the 4-hourly candle looks like on Sushi. Bybit. Nothing. The market just doesn't give a shit. Like, it doesn't want to do anything. ES is pulling back. I mean, if we were to do that, I guess, consolidate up, and we'll push that up. But otherwise, like, there's not much that we can do. Okay. It's more of Bitcoin is on major support right here. It's just a lot of fighting, a lot of chop. It shouldn't be like this, you know. Bounce. Like, what are we doing? Yeah. I'll tell you what we're doing. We're doing nothing. I know that a lot of, like, a part of me just wants to long this, especially if I look at an 8-hourly. No, that's the in 5 minutes. This is a short signal for me, unless we close. So we'll see how this 8-hour candle closes. It's very important that we stay patient. I'll see where I should take the trade. I do want to buy Sushi. I really do. Like, this is like the ultimate range low. So let's see if I was to take Sushi here, right? Right. If I take Sushi here and I get stopped out, take profit, stop loss. My stop loss will be like what, around here, 0.892, 0.892. No, that's not right, Chief. 0.8483. Alright, there. Don't mind. I don't mind like longing this. Like how low can we go? Here. Like this. Okay. I should DCA. Looks terrible. But that's the plan. I'm not really gonna break my plan. I'm at range low. I have a plan. I'm gonna execute it. I'm buying Sushi. I like Sushi. I like people. So, do I want a better entry? Yeah, but can can always DCA lower. Okay. I want to take my first trade on Sushi Life. Waiting for the candle to finish for Bitcoin. Or I could just short it and buy like here. That's what we can do. Yeah, nice and easy. It's a 4-minute video. It's a bit too long for TikTok. I need to find a way to learn how to make videos on TikTok. Not really good. Man, Bitcoin looks like shite. Wait for this 4-hour candle to close. 12 hourly. And the 12 hourly is telling us to short here. All the way to the bottom. Right? Ichimoku, breakdown, break up. This is what it looks like on a daily down here. Just short the rest all the way to the bottom. Where are we going? Where are we going on the 3-day? Say that the point of max pain would be 28,406. To be honest, I don't mind shorting Bitcoin here though. But how long? I don't really. We'll see. 8 hours is short. 4 hour is short. 2 hour is short. 1 hour is short. 45 minute maybe long. 1 minute on a 15-minute. That's a shit candle. No one cares about this candle. This candle is fake news. Like, no one cares about that candle. This is a bunch of gamblers. We don't gamble. But this is the candle. Like this. Breakdown right there. Let's smack it down. There it is. This is it. Testing. Yep, all good. Mic back on. Could long here. What am I longing though? No, that's a short one. What's Ether looking? Is Ether a short? There you go. Sideways market. Confirmation. Down. Let's see. Like, are we judging these candles? 8 hourly? Oh man. Okay. So there. Here. Nah, I'm not trading this shit. On the 8 hourly. On the 8 hourly, Ether is a long. No joke. Between there and there. So let's calculate this trade. Long. From there to there. 1.78. It's not even worth my time. Fucking range boundaries. Alright, let's quickly go through the charts. Bitcoin has been in the tightest range for a long time. It's about to be weekend. I think we should take a break and just have some time with family and loved ones. But we will chart just for, educational purposes, I guess. You go there, like, what is this? This is not even along on the 4 hourly. It's so confusing. I'll just move it on. Just give me a second. 8 hourly here, like like that. USDT looks bearish. Bitcoin dominance look bearish. So maybe it's just rotating into alts. You got like coins like Kava that's pumping like that. To be honest, like I could take this trade, or maybe let's check the 4 hourly. Yeah, man, that's a long. Huh? That's definitely a long. I'm taking this trade, bro. So we go here like this. Fucking 15%. Here, if it's bullish, you shouldn't touch that. Maybe like this. Yeah, like this. If he gives. Well, if he gives, he gives. That or down here like that. Or you.